Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 29 team selection. I'll take you through what my team currently looks like, my current transfer plans, and as always we'll have a live tinker at the end as well. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please make sure to drop a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, before we jump into today's video, I just want to give a massive shout out to Ultimate Champions. Ultimate Champions is the first free-to-earn fantasy football game powered by the blockchain. What you do is you collect different players as NFTs or non-fungible tokens. You build up the best team you possibly can, either by opening packs or by trading on the market. And once you build up that team, they basically compete like you do with fantasy football. And the better those players do in real life, the more points you earn. The more points you earn, the better the possible rewards. The beta is going to be live very, very soon. We're currently in the alpha phase of testing, so this game is currently being tested at the moment. You want to get on this project sooner rather than later. And if you are interested in getting involved in this game, the opportunity to, like I said, collect different players, open packs, earn some potential money as well. I'm going to leave two links in the description. The first link is to their Discord community. So please do click that link, join their Discord community, and you can get the opportunity to get some free packs before the game goes live and potentially be involved in the testing of the game as well. And then the second link I will leave is for their Twitter accounts. So you can follow that, turn on notifications, and you can know when the game does eventually go live. So please, if you want to support the channel or just get involved in a very cool game for free, you can click either of those two links in the description down below. So guys, I'm not going to bother with reviewing Game Week 28 because at the time of recording this, it's been recorded on Wednesday afternoon. We still have all of the games going ahead on Thursday. Lots of stuff's changing, and I don't think it's really worthwhile spending ages reviewing Game Week 28. I am currently on about a 3 or 4k green arrow despite taking a -8 hit, despite not playing a bench boost, wildcard, whatever it may be. I've got no chips in play, and I took a big hit, and I'm currently doing pretty well. That green arrow was about sort of 10, 15k before Spurs started scoring lots of goals, and I of course don't own any Spurs players, so that was slightly tricky, but I'm in a really good position. I've still got Rafinha captain to go, and the transfers for this week went very well. So I brought in Coutinho, Reece James, and Rafinha. Of course, Coutinho scored 13 points, Reece James 18 points, and Rafinha did blank in the first game. But those transfers were very, very successful. The players I took out all blanked as well. So we're in a really good position heading into Game Week 29. If the games go well on Thursday, we could be in an even better position, maybe pushing towards the top 25k. So fingers crossed that does happen. With respect to Game Week 29, I'm just going to quickly fly through the way the team currently looks, and then the majority of today is just going to be spent tinkering, and I'll just talk you through my current transfer plans, what I'm thinking for future weeks, whether I think we should be taking hits at the moment, and how I plan on navigating 30 and beyond as well. Starting with the defense, it looked perfectly set up for this week. It couldn't really have got much better. However, just before I started recording this, we have now had the news that James has picked up another injury. Looks like it's basically a reoccurrence of his previous injury, and it might have caused another setback. Now, we don't have a time frame on that. I would suspect it's not that bad based on the quotes that we've seen so far. So a few days ago, Reece James did acknowledge that he picked up an injury, but he said it's nothing to worry about and he's feeling fairly positive. And then today, Thomas Tuchel said that it's actually slightly worse than they first thought. However, I wouldn't necessarily rush to transfer him out before we potentially get some other news on that. It might not be as bad as Tuchel said in the press conference. He said they still need to do tests, examinations, scans, whatever it may be. So it might not be as bad as it first looked. But I do think they will almost definitely therefore keep him out of Game Week 28, the rest of Game Week 28. And then most likely, because it's at the weekend, probably Game Week 29 as well. They don't play in blank Game Week 30. They then play in 31. So you would hope, maybe suspect, that James would be back for Game Week 31. But if he's not ready for Game Week 29, for me, that's a good opportunity to probably sell him. And if I sell James down to someone below 5 million, it'll give me the opportunity to bring in some other players as well. So I'm looking at James now potentially as being sold. But the other three players, Ramsdale, Van Dijk, and Trent, looking absolutely brilliant. I'm really glad that I held on to Van Dijk ahead of Cancelo. I was trying to decide who to sell between the two this week. Held on to Van Dijk for the double game week, and I think that's in a really good position now because I know a lot of people are looking to bring in a third Liverpool player alongside Trent and Salah. And then Ramsdale was great. I mean, I don't necessarily expect a clean sheet out of either of those games, but you'd hope for a few saves, and if you can pick up sort of 5 or 6 points, that's absolutely fine. If he gets a clean sheet, that's a bonus. And then I do still think, as I always say, Trent is a good captaincy option, but I just think for this week, I'm just going to go for Salah. I think there are other opportunities this week and in future weeks with double game weeks coming up to potentially differentiate. And I think we saw what happened in Game Week 26. I think I'm just going to probably go with Salah. But if you want to go with Trent, I think he's a fine option. And I think that Brighton game in particular definitely looks like it could be a clean sheet. So that's the way the sort of starting defense looks. For the first time in a while, I'm starting with a 3-back rather than a 4-back. So only 3 defenders. And that means my 2 Wolves defenders are both on the bench. So I've got Sias on the bench and Cody on the bench. Looking at how Everton looked against Tottenham, I wouldn't necessarily be over the moon benching both of my Wolves defenders, but I do still think a goal could potentially be there for Everton. And if you look at underlying data for Wolves over the past few games, they have been pretty shocking. They're about sort of 15th, 16th for expected goals conceded per 90. So they're not a very good defence at the moment. And as a result, however bad Everton are, I'm not necessarily sure I'd want to start a Wolves defender this week. So I'm happy enough having them as my first and second sub if I need them. That's the way the defence looks. Now let's move on to the midfield. So generally speaking, I am actually quite happy with the midfield. The great thing about my midfield currently is that I have Saka and Salah, who I think are probably two of the best double game week players for this upcoming game week. And also 4 of my players, basically all of the midfielders apart from Salah, all play in blank game week 30. So I've set my team up in this way on purpose. Of course, Coutinho and Raphinha both have the double game week in 28, and they play in blank game week 30. And then Saka and Salah have the double game week in 29, and they play in blank game week 30 as well. So I've been planning for this for a while. I've been taking hits for this reason to set my team up in a nice way. However, Spurs have thrown a slight spanner in the works by being pretty good recently, especially Kulusevski and Son. And so I'm looking at potentially trying to get one of those two into my team. And also Bowen's now picked up an injury. Now, at the time of recording this, I don't know the extent of Bowen's injury, but the last update made it sound like he's probably a doubt for game week 29, but might be back for game week 30. So it's a tricky one as a result. Do you sell him for 29 for someone like Kulusevski because you get the extra game in 29 and you equally get a game in game week 30? But from game week 31 onwards, Bowen is a really good option, and we'll discuss that in a bit later. Bowen actually has some pretty good fixtures from 31 onwards, so you might want to hold on to Bowen as a result. So it's really tricky. If he might be back for 29, I'd potentially be looking to hold on to him. But like I said, I do really want Kulusevski or Son in my team. Specifically Kulusevski at 6.1 million looks like a fantastic option. And as a result, if I want to do that, I would have to probably sell Bowen or Coutinho. With Bowen being an injury doubt, it probably makes more sense to sell him. The issue is Coutinho's fixtures from 31 onwards are a lot more difficult than Bowen's. So it is a really tricky decision to decide who to sell out of those two if I do sell anyone in my midfield. But for this week, I'm not too displeased with the midfield. Yes, Bowen, Coutinho and Raphinha have single game week fixtures, but they're all class players. They could all score in any game. Specifically, Raphinha's on penalties, which is nice. Norwich is a great fixture. West Ham have been sort of inconsistent at the back, sometimes looking great, sometimes not looking so great, but I would still expect Coutinho to do fairly well there. And if Bowen's fit, I wouldn't put a goal past him against Villa. Like I said, it's literally just Tottenham players. I think if Tottenham didn't play in blank game week 30, I'd probably end up leaving this midfield. But the fact that they now not only double in 29, but also play in 30 just makes me think that they're definitely worth going for. So I'm not displeased with the midfield now. I'm really happy that I've got Saka in, because I know a lot of people don't own Saka and will probably be using a free transfer or hit on Saka this week. And if you don't own Saka, you're watching this and you don't own Saka, I personally think he's probably a priority to bring in. He looks absolutely fantastic at the moment. And Salah's obviously great for the captaincy. I don't think I want to sell Raphinha because I think it's a good fixture against Norwich. He's got a decent enough fixture against a shaky Wolves defence now in game week 30, and also decent fixtures from 31 onwards. So really it is just Bowen and Coutinho. And I think I'm almost definitely going to end up selling one of them. It's just that which one I end up selling. And I guess that will depend on what news we get regarding Bowen's injury. So if there's any doubt, I think it probably will be Bowen making way. So that's the midfield. Let's finally move on to the attack. So finishing off with the strikers. Currently I have Jimenez, Lacazette, and King. I'll be honest, there aren't many strikers that anyone want in the game at the moment. I think the only striker that people really do desperately want is Harry Kane, and I am one of those people. And we're going to discuss that in the live tinkering section, also the watch list section. I do really want Kane in my team. I don't even necessarily think I'll captain Kane for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to captain him this week personally. I still think that Salah's the best option. There's definitely justification to go for Kane, but I still think I'd prefer Salah. Game week 30, I might potentially captain Kane in game week 30, but there are other good options in there as well. I quite fancy Saka. If I had the likes of Harvey Barnes, I think he's a decent option as well. So I might captain Kane in game week 30. 31, I'd probably captain Salah against Watford over Kane versus Newcastle. Then in 32, I think Tottenham have Villa, but we're likely or possibly going to have a double game week for Everton and Burnley in that week, and I'd probably bring in Calvert-Lewin and captain him. I know that doesn't sound like a great idea, but I'm a bit of a sucker for a double game week. So it's maybe only game week 30 that I'd end up captaining Kane. And if I were to bring in someone like a Kulusevski instead, could I just potentially slap the captaincy on him? Or like I said, maybe just trust Saka or Lacazette with it instead? So I still think he's a fantastic option, but at 12.3, 12.4 million, whatever he is now, I'm not necessarily sure he's fully justifying that price tag. It's literally just because there are no other good strikers at the moment. They're all pretty pants. So Lacazette, I'm fairly happy keeping. I have looked at potential ways to get Kane in, and one of them is to sell Lacazette. I'm just really not very keen on that. He's got a decent double this week. He's pretty creative at the moment. Like, he's got decent underlying data. We spoke about this in the Game Week preview video. His current expected goal involvement, non-penalty, is sitting around 0.5. So I'm not too displeased holding him. Obviously got a decent fixture in 30. And then for 31 and 32, he's got good fixtures as well. And then remember, if you've been following my channel for a while now, I'm free hitting in 33 and I'm wildcarding in 34. So Lacazette just really nicely fits that plan. And I don't feel any necessity to sell him. What I also think is if I do want Calvert-Lewin in 32, I could just shift Lacazette to Calvert-Lewin in 32 because he's a little bit more expensive than Calvert-Lewin. And so he's a really nice placeholder for that game week 32, potential double game week. So Lacazette's going to stay. King is just too cheap. It's not that I want to keep King. I don't like. You can see I put him third sub. Even if he's fit, it'd be third sub behind Sykes and Cody. I don't want to keep King. I don't want to play King. Even when he had a double game week in game week 28, I still had him on the bench. The only reason I haven't sold him is just who would I get at that price? Yes, Broly is not a bad option, but he, of course, doesn't double this week. He blanks in game week 30. So I don't really want, and I think in 32, I believe it is, Southampton have a slightly trickier fixture. So considering I'm free hitting 33, wildcard 34, I don't think King to Broly makes much sense. And so outside of potentially doing something like King to Gelhardt to get me some funds elsewhere, I don't think I'd be selling King anytime soon. I don't see the necessity to do so. So really, it's that Jimenez spot. Now, of course, I'm recording this before the Thursday game where Wolves play. I'm very interested to see if Jimenez is dropped once again because he was on the bench once again in game week 28 in the first fixture. So if he is on the bench once again, I think it's an easy sell, and I think I'd probably shift him to KANE and have to downgrade a few places elsewhere to get the funds for that. If he plays and looks good, I might be tempted to keep him. Two reasons. Everton look absolutely shocking at the moment, and we saw what Spurs did to them. Now, Spurs are a significantly better team and attack than Wolves, and I'm not necessarily expecting Wolves to put that many goals past Everton, but it means that it's probably not the worst fixture. And then Leeds in game week 30 is a really nice fixture as well. So if Jimenez does look decent on Thursday, and I think maybe he was just rested for a couple of games, it does make me lean towards keeping him slightly, but I'm not sure that we can rely on him long term. So Jimenez is the spot that I'm not sure. And like I said, pretty much the only striker I want is KANE. It's just whether I can afford KANE and what other downgrades I have to make to be able to afford him in my team. So that's the way the team currently looks for game week 29. I've got one free transfer, 0.5 million in the bank. I've got 6 double game week players at the moment. So I've just got triple Liverpool, triple Arsenal, 6 double game week players. And I'm looking really at trying to bring in either 1 or 2 Spurs players. That would make it either 7 or 8 double game week players. I am considering potentially a -12, which would involve bringing in 3 Spurs players for 9 double game week players. But I don't think I want to take another hit that big. I think that's slightly too aggressive with the transfers. So currently planning either a -4 or -8, bringing in a couple of more Spurs players. It would leave the team looking incredibly nice. Let's now take a look at my watch list to look at which players I'm considering bringing in. And then, like I said, we're just going to finish today with a bit of a long form live tinker. I'm going to show you what my team looks like for 29, 30 and beyond. So I think this is probably the shortest my watch list has ever been, so this won't take a long time. Essentially, for game week 29, and this isn't just for me, this is for anyone, unless you're free hitting, I suppose, in game week 30, the only 2 teams that both double in game week 29 and play in blank game week 30 are Spurs and Arsenal, right? So they're the only 2 teams that you'll get 3 fixtures from in the next 2 weeks. So it makes sense to target those 2 teams. Now, I already own triple Arsenal. I own Ramsdale, Saka and Lacazette. So despite me thinking someone like Martinelli and Tierney would be fantastic options to add to my team, I can't have more than 3 Arsenal players, which wasn't a problem I thought I'd have at the start of the season, right? I'd quite like 4 or 5 Arsenal players at the moment. So outside of Arsenal, the only other team, therefore, is Spurs. So on my watch list at the moment, I've got Doherty, KULUSEVSKI, Son and KANE. So I've just got the 4 main Spurs options that everyone's considering. I don't mind Davies, I don't mind Dyer, but I just think if you're going to pay just ever so slightly more, like 0.1, 0.2 million more, I'd rather just go for Doherty myself. I don't necessarily think it will definitely start the next 3 fixtures because the next 3 fixtures for Spurs are in the space of 9 days. So I think on the 12th, 16th and 20th are their next 3 fixtures. So I do think that Doherty could play 2 and Emerson Royale could come in for 1. So that is the risk that you take, but I think maybe the upside's there. It was a similar situation with James versus Rudiger in game week 28. The upside was there for James over Rudiger, and despite the fact that he's looking like he'll only have played 1 fixture in game week 28, an 18-pointer is what you can get from the likes of Doherty and James. Doherty has, I think it's an 18 and a 14-pointer back-to-back. So we can see the potential there. So for me, he's the defender to go for from Spurs. And then KULUSEVSKI, Son and KANE, obviously the 3 attackers that are starting in that front 3 for Spurs. KANE and Son are, of course, my first choice, but they are a lot of money and it would require at least an extra hit for both of them. So that's something to consider. And KULUSEVSKI just still does look very good at the moment. He's got about a 0.5 non-penalty expected goal involvement. So he's definitely high up in my thinking. And like I said, something like a Bowen or Coutinho to KULUSEVSKI is such an easy move to make for my team. Outside of those Spurs players, I've actually just got 3 Leicester players on my watch list. Now, the main reason for 2 of them, Marty and Dewsbury Hall, is they're both very cheap. And if I want to get KANE into my team, I would have to bring in one of those 2 to fund it. So I will discuss this in the live tinkering in a bit more detail, but it would either be a Marty in for James or Dewsbury Hall in for Coutinho. That would allow me to bring in KANE. So that's the reason they're both on there. And the reason I've gone for 2 Leicester players for those 2 cheap options is that Leicester play in blank game week 30, got a nice fixture against Brentford. And then also, if I, for some reason, decide not to play my free hit in 33, Leicester are almost definitely confirmed to have a double game week in 33, just because they've got so many fixtures to be rearranged. And it looks like it will actually be quite a nice double game week. So a Marty and Dewsbury Hall, for that reason, I think would probably be the 2 cheap options I would go in either defence or in midfield. Outside of Dewsbury Hall, I don't mind Gordon as an option as well. So if I feel like I've got enough players for blank game week 30, and I have money to go for a 4.5 as opposed to a 4.4, I think Gordon's a decent option because, of course, he doubles in game week 29 against Wolves and Newcastle. And out after that, like I said, it's probable, or at least possible, that Everton will have a double game week in either game week 31 or game week 32. And that rearranged fixture will probably be against Burnley, maybe against Watford. So I think maybe Gordon ahead of Dewsbury Hall if I have the budget there. And then Barnes is on there. I just really fancy Barnes at the moment. I think he just looks like a really good option. You know, you've just got a bit of a gut feeling about someone. And Barnes is one of those sort of confidence players that when he gets into a run of form, you sort of want to get on him before, you know, his price starts to go up and ownership starts to go up as well. So that's pretty much the watch list. At the end of the day, I want probably two of Doherty, Kulusevski, Son and KANE. Now, I don't think that's a knee-jerk reaction in response to the Leeds and Everton games. It's just their underlying statistics look really good. And like I said, they have extra fixtures. And I'm a bit of a sucker for extra fixtures. I just think you're trying to increase the expected value as much as you possibly can. So, like I said, 2 from Doherty, Kulusevski, Son and KANE. And it might involve having to bring in a Marty and Dewsbury Hall to fund that. So without further ado, let's have a look at how I might be able to make those transfers for this week and for game week 30 as well. Right, guys, let's do this. So as always, this is going to be a bit more of an informal section of this video. I'm basically just going to think out loud. I know this helps a lot of people and some people just enjoy watching it. And I know a lot of people have told me in the comments and also in DMs and private messages that they basically tinker alongside me, pause the video, make changes, etc. So if you want to do that, if you've got 2 screens or you're on your laptop, whatever it may be, get them up alongside each other, you can go to fpl.team. That's the website that I'm currently using. You can see the URL at the top of the screen, fpl.team. Go to the planning ahead section, type in your team ID, and it basically brings up your team and you can just basically plan ahead for future weeks. So if you want to bring up your team alongside me whilst I'm talking about this, feel free to do so. I've essentially got about like 3 or 4 different options with respect to transfers. Like I said, for me, it makes most sense to target Spurs players. I think if you're someone that doesn't own Arsenal or Spurs players, I definitely think it's worth considering Arsenal players as well. If I had basically no Arsenal and Spurs players this week and I was looking at priorities, I would say probably a priority is to try and bring in one of Son or KANE if it's easy to do so and it doesn't completely wreck your team. And then outside that, I'd actually say maybe Saka would be my first choice. So I think if you don't own Saka already, that's probably something you want to look at. But for me, like I said, I already own triple Arsenal, so I'm looking to bring in Spurs players. So the sensible moves for my team, if someone sent me their team and said, what do you think I should do with my team? And I was given some like external advice for someone else, I would probably recommend taking out the 2 flagged players and bringing in 2 players from my watch list. So remember, you can't see it on fpl.team, but James and Bowen are both flagged. So I could do really simply just James to Doherty. Right, apologies for my Irish fans if I'm absolutely butchering his name there. So James to Doherty and then Bowen straight to Kulusevski. Right, that's only a -4. Not only is that a -4, it gives me 2.6 million in the bank either to use this week or to save for game week 30, which could be absolutely massive. If not, I just keep it for game week 31. And that would give me 8 double game week players, including double Spurs. So just straight off the bat, I do think that this is the best thing to do with my team, right? I think this is the most sensible option. It does mean I can't get Son or KANE, but we spoke about this in the game week preview video, and that was before Kulusevski looked fantastic once again against Everton. Kulusevski's stats aren't that far behind Son and KANE. And when I'm not necessarily looking to captain Son and KANE, apart from potentially in game week 30, when I still think there are other decent captaincy options, is it worth paying 12.3 million for KANE when I can get Kulusevski for about less than half the price, right? Less than half the price of KANE. So let's just say I make those 2. I'll then show you for future weeks. Then we're going to go back and I'll show you another few options that I have as well. So if I just make those transfers, if we switch forward to game week 30 now, I do have a really good number of players in there, right? So I've got 10 players, and then it's pretty much just Salah, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, or King that I have to play. At this stage, I could make another transfer now to field 11 players. So the only transfer I'd want to probably make is I wouldn't want to take out any of my Liverpool players particularly. It would be for Josh King. Now, so I could bring in potentially Gelhardt if he's playing or he looks like he might come off the bench. That's an okay option. How much would we have? We'd have 8.4 million. So I could bring in Ollie Watkins just as an option, but then I don't particularly like Villa's fixtures long term. I could potentially bring in Antonio. Antonio's fixtures aren't bad long term, so that's an option there. But how much do we trust Antonio again? Doesn't look fantastic recently. So Tony, I guess, is a decent option. Daka, because Vardy's just had another injury doubt, which has made him a doubt for game week 30 and beyond. So let's maybe say Daka, I guess, for game week 31 if I wanted to. That would give me 1.3 million in the bank still. So let's say that I filled this team for game week 30. I would probably give the armband to... I don't actually know at this stage, and I guess this is the major advantage, right, of having Son or Kane. But I would probably end up giving it to Saka with the way he looks at the moment. Maybe Kulusevski. We'll put the Vice armband on Kulusevski. But I would have 11 players for Game Week 30, and I've been planning for this for a while. I've taken a few hits, and I'm fairly happy. If you're wondering how many players you need for Game Week 30 and which players you should need for Game Week 30, we did discuss that in the Game Week preview video that I released a few days ago. But I'm really happy with the way the team looks there. So I wouldn't have to take a hit in Game Week 30. It would only be a -4 in 29. Let's then skip forward to Game Week 31. Of course, the triple Liverpool would come back in, and it would mainly be for those Wolves players, most likely. Like that. And then I'd probably... there you go. Probably play Salah ahead of Daka like that. All right? So... team looks pretty good. There's no one in that starting 11 that I wouldn't really want to own. Of course, if Everton-Burnley double goes into 31, I'd probably be at this stage looking to bring in Calvert-Lewin or Weghorst for Jimenez. I think that'd be a decent option. Outside of that, I'd probably roll the transfer this week. All right, so let's say that we think that the Everton-Burnley game is more likely to go into Game Week 32. So let's say it goes into 32 as opposed to 31. So we'll leave that like it is. Say we'll roll a transfer. For 32, the team looks amazing again. And now remember, my chip strategy is free hit 33, wildcard 34. So for me, 32 is the last week I have to get through with this team. So I could take out Van Dijk against City if I wanted to and go for a 1 week punt. Again, if 32 is a double game week, that would suit my team so well. Because I could take a -4 to bring in 2 from Burnley and Everton. Or 3, sorry, because I'd have 2 free transfers. So I could bring in like Calvert-Lewin, Weghorst, and then someone in defence. So just as an example, if they do get the double game week that week, something like Calvert-Lewin, like I said, Weghorst could come in for Daka if I wanted to, or for Jimenez if this was a double game week, right? And I could start to load up on those players. So this is the first route by bringing in Doherty and Kulusevski. As you can see, Doherty and Kulusevski would play every single game as well. The game week 31 fixture at Newcastle is great. It's great to have them in blank game week 32. If I just refresh them and we go back to game week 29 with the way the team currently looks, right? And now I'd show you my plan for potentially bringing in Kane. So let's set the team up once again as it is. Bowen in there for Sice, like that. There are 2 ways to get Kane in, but the one that I'm currently leaning to is obviously it will be Jimenez out for Kane. And it would still be Doherty in for James, which is great. And then I've basically got just about enough money to take Coutinho out for Dewsbury Hall or Gordon. Now, at the moment, I have enough money for Gordon, which makes me tempted because, like I said, he's probably got 2 double game weeks, 1 in 29, then 1 in 31 or 32. However, I don't know if Gordon's going to keep his place, and also Dewsbury Hall plays in blank game week 30. He's got a decent fixture there. So I'm not really sure which way I'd go at the moment. Let's say I'd go the KDH way, just because he has that fixture in 30. I think he'd be a nice option as a result. But I wouldn't want to play him this week. So I would have to play Sice. The only issue with that is then if Bowen's also not fit and available, I would have to either play Dewsbury Hall, King, or Cody. So it might end up my team looking like this for 29. And whilst Everton haven't been great, I don't think I want double Wolves defence. So the great thing about this is it allows me to get Kane in, but it means that I have to take out Coutinho and I don't get Kulusevski. And my team doesn't look as good for 29. So I guess it comes down to, for an extra -4, and for a slightly more suboptimal team in 29, how much do I want Kane for captaincy in 30 and also for game week 29 and beyond as well? I don't know how much I want Kane, but I think I want him quite a lot. And so therefore it is quite it's an option for me for sure. The team would look fairly similar going into the next week again. So it would look like this. I'd still have 10, and then I'd still have the same choice at that stage if I wanted to take out King. But at this stage, I wouldn't be able to upgrade him to a Daka because I'd have no money in the bank. So it would have to be for probably something like a Gelhart or for Hwang, because obviously I've taken out Jimenez now, so I have a spare Wolf spot. I'd probably just leave it at 10. But the great thing now, like I said, is I do have KANE as the obvious captaincy choice in Game Week 30. So that's why I'm currently leaning into that. And then for future weeks, the team looks largely similar. I've got Dewsbury Hall instead of Barnes and then KANE instead of Kulusevski, essentially. But the team looks largely similar apart from that. And again, it's pretty well set up for 31 and 32 as a result. And that's another reason that I don't want to wildcard in 31. For those that have asked quite a few times, I keep getting questions around that. Why are you not wildcarding in 31? Why would I wildcard that team? I've got my triple Liverpool against Watford. I've got triple Arsenal against Crystal Palace. I've got, at this stage, I'll have double, I don't know which Spurs players, but I'll have double Spurs of some kind. Rafinha against Southampton, Bowen against Everton if I do this one and I hang on to Bowen. And then into 32 is the same. Bowen's got another nice fixture, Rafinha, Watford. I don't think I need to wildcard before 33, 34. If I free hit in 33, I can wildcard in 34. So that's the probable KANE route. So they're the first two options. The first one, Kulusevski and Doherty. The second one, Doherty, KANE, and Dewsbury Hall. The final option that I've got is not doing the Dewsbury Hall move, but instead doing a Marty. Now, remember I said a Marty's the other one on my watch list. So if I just quickly go back to this, hopefully you guys enjoy this sort of relaxed more thing. It's more like a live stream, I suppose, as it is a video. Bringing Bowen for size like that. So that's the way the team looks again without having made any transfers. If I do a Marty in for James. Now, Marty does have the potential to lose his place at some point, but Fofana has just caught COVID after just about coming back from injury. We don't know what effect that will have on him, but the fact that he wasn't fully fit anyway, he's now got COVID. I think Marty will be fine for Game Week 29 and Game Week 30. I don't need him in 29, but I think he'll be fine for Game Week 30. And then in 31, they play Manchester United, so I bench him anyway, and I don't need him in 32. So to get Marty in, it's basically to fund the KANE move and then to play him in blank Game Week 30, which I think he'll be fine for. So let's put a Marty in for James. Seiss would then come into my defence to start. If I then put KANE in for Jimenez, I'm £2.1 million short. So I've got two options here. If Bowen is injured, I've got 4.6 million for that Bowen spot. So once again, this becomes either a KDH or it becomes a Gordon. At this stage, because I've just brought in a Marty, I might end up going for Gordon. So Gordon might end up coming in there. That could be an option, right? The other option is I keep Bowen in there if Bowen is potentially fit, or I just want to keep him for 31 and beyond. And I take out Coutinho, and then I've got 5.1 million in the bank to replace Coutinho. But realistically, under 5.1 million, most of the options that I would want are probably around 4.6, 4.5. So I think Coutinho would be the one to stay. And then it would probably be Gordon coming in for Bowen. Now, the reason that I'm not necessarily as keen on this is I'm basically bringing in two duds to be able to afford KANE. Whereas with the Doherty, KDH and KANE move, I'm at least getting Doherty in defence as well. So I guess the three options, just to reiterate, and you can let me know down below in the comments, I'm always eager to get some help from you guys, is basically the first one, Kulusevski and Doherty. The second one is Doherty, KDH, and KANE for a -8. The first one was -4, second one -8. And the third one is another -8 for KANE, but this time it's a Marty, Gordon, and KANE, or a Marty, KDH, and KANE. So like I said, I'm bringing in two cheap Leicester players, or a cheap player and Gordon plus KANE. It feels like a lot to get KANE in for, but he just does look so fantastic at the moment. And I do think he is probably the best captaincy option in Game Week 30. So that's the tricky decision that I've got currently at the moment. The thing that I haven't really discussed is getting in Son. Now, the reason for that is I still can't work out a good way to get Son in for a -4. So I'll just refresh the page once more. Apologies for keep on refreshing it. But if I set the team up, I can't work a way out for a -4 that I like to get Son into my team. And when I think if I've got to take a -8 anyway, I'd much prefer KANE at the moment. His underlying statistics are better. He's on penalties. When KANE is in form, he's the one to own for me. So if you can see an easy way to get Son in for a -4, do let me know. I just want to double check that I can't do Son in for Coutinho now that James is out. Yeah, so if you just scroll down for the budget for you, if I do Coutinho to Son, James, I've only got 3.3 million to then replace James. So that doesn't work either. Outside of that, if we keep James in for Jimenez, I've got 4.5 million. So I could do Coutinho to Son and then Jimenez to basically no one because there's no playing 4.5. Gelhart's the only playing cheap striker and he's 4.6 million. So it would be to any 4.5 million pound striker. So anyone, right? Lacadia, something like that, right? And then I would play Sice. The bench looks pretty weak at that stage, and I've basically taken a -4 to get Son in ahead of Kulusevski, but I don't get Doherty. So basically, I suppose what I'm getting at here is if I'm going to go for Son, I'd rather just make the better moves with Kulusevski or go all the way for KANE. So that's, if anyone's wondering in the comments why I'm not going for Son, that's the reason for that. So let me know down below what you think of all that tinkering. Been talking for about 13 minutes, bit sort of long form. For those of you that enjoy it, I've kept this section in there. For those that want the shorter videos, they can get it anyway with just skipping this final section. So do let me know, do you prefer the Kulusevski and Doherty one, the sort of sensible, smart moves, but not having Son and KANE? Or do you prefer either of the option 2 or option 3 where I get KANE in, but potentially at the expense of Kulusevski and also downgrading a few places elsewhere? Please let me know down in the comments below. So guys, before we finish today, I just wanted to remind you that you can become a member of the channel and join the Raptor Hall of Fame, the legends that continue to support the channel via the membership feature on YouTube. So if you ever wonder what that join button is next to the subscribe button, or if you ever see the link in the description which says if you become a member, click. If you want to become a member, click here. It's basically where you support the channel for a small monthly fee, and as a result, you're supporting me, but you get some perks in return. So Raptor 2 is actually only 99p a month, and in return for that, you get a badge next to your name in comments and also in live stream. And basically, I'll answer your message in live stream because it's highlighted to me in bold colors, and you have a badge next to your name, and you also get some custom emojis as well. So if you want priority reply to comments and you also want priority reply in live streams as well, you can become a member for 99p a month. It's absolutely very, very cheap. And then Raptor 1 is £4.99 a month. That is the sort of premium option. With that, you get multiple perks. You get everything that Raptor 2 does, plus you also get entered into our Raptor 1 mini league. There's about sort of 40 of us in there at the moment, and it's very, very competitive. So if you want to compete with some people in a mini league, you've got that there. I'm looking to set up some really cool prizes for next season as well, and potentially some like classic shirts, different giveaways as well. So definitely look to join that for this season and beyond. And outside of that, we also have a private channel on Discord where I can give you personalized team feedback, and the rest of the team can give you personalized team feedback as well. So if you ever want to discuss FPL, football, just anything in general with people that are like-minded and also pretty good at FPL, because I think I'm like 15th in our mini league. We've got some very, very good quality managers in our league. Then you can join, become a Raptor 1 member. I'll enter you into our private Discord channel, and you can just chat with those. And outside of that, just if you ever want to talk to me, you can have basically access to message me whenever you want on Discord or on Twitter as well. So those options are there. The main thing that I always want to do is just give a shout out to those of you that are watching. If you are already a member, I appreciate you more than you know. If you want to become a member, the option is there. Either click the join button or click the link in the description, which has like the membership thing next to it. Outside of that, the content will continue to be free forever, so don't stress about the content being monetized. But if you want to go above and beyond and you want to support me and support the channel, you can do so by becoming a member. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 29 team selection. I haven't made any transfers yet, and my brain's a bit all over the place, but I think sometimes these videos are actually quite enjoyable where I do more sort of live tinkering. Like I said, more like a live stream as opposed to a video, but I hope you guys did still find value in it. Let me know down below what your current transfer plans are. Let me know what your rank is. Let me know what your plan is for the future. We're coming towards the business end of the season, and this is so interesting at this point to see where different plans diverge, where chip strategies sort of diverge to, which chips you play this week in future weeks, which transfers you look to make. And it's a very exciting time of the season. I always love it. So do let me know down below what your current plans are. But if you are enjoying the content on the channel, please make sure to drop a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure to drop some sort of comment down below to help with the YouTube algorithm as well. The live stream for this week is not a deadline stream because I'm not available on Friday or Saturday because I'm going back home to spend some time with the family. And there's also a London FPL meetup as well. So I'm not going to be available on Friday or Saturday. So the live stream is Thursday at 5:30 p.m. GMT. We're going to live stream for about an hour and a half before the second round of games in Game Week 28. So from about 5:30 till 7 p.m. Thursday GMT, make sure you tune into that live stream. It should be a good one. I'll answer all of your questions in the chat, and I'll give you a bit of an update as opposed to what my current transfer plans are. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.